We see Cristiano Ronaldo today as a finished product, a billionaire, a global icon, and a physically perfect goal-scoring machine. It's easy to assume he was simply destined for this. But if you look past the private jets and trophies, you find a story that began in a state of total collapse. In the early 90s, the Santo Antonio neighborhood of Funchal was one of the poorest corners of Madeira. Ronaldo grew up here, in a cramped, tin-roofed home where the rain leaked through the ceiling and the future felt non-existent. The situation was so dire that his mother, Maria Dolores, initially considered terminating her pregnancy because she didn't know how she would feed another child. His father, Denise, was a veteran who returned from war with deep depression and a battle with alcoholism that he would eventually lose. Ronaldo didn't start at zero, he started in the hole. For him, football was never a game or a hobby. It was the only way to keep his family from sinking. On the pitch, he was so overwhelmed by the need to win that he became known as the crybaby. If a teammate missed a pass or his team lost a game, he would break down in public, unable to process anything less than perfection. Off the pitch, the vulnerability was even more literal. He spent his nights waiting outside the back door of a local McDonald's, hoping the workers would sneak him and his friends a few leftover burgers so they wouldn't go to bed hungry. This was a child with no safety net and no connections. He was in a position where he had to either develop an iron skin or be completely destroyed by the world around him. At 12 years old, Ronaldo had to make a choice that would break most adults. He left his mother and siblings behind to move hundreds of miles away to Lisbon, living alone in a youth academy to chase a professional contract. It was a brutal transition. The kids in Lisbon mocked his thick Madeiran accent, calling him a hick and a peasant. He spent his nights in the academy dormitory, crying into his pillow, so homesick he nearly packed his bags and quit. The pressure finally snapped. After a teacher made a joke about his family's poverty in front of the class, Ronaldo picked up a chair and threw it at him. He was expelled, standing on the edge of losing the only opportunity he had left. But instead of failing, something in his psychology shifted. The trauma of those early months in Lisbon didn't break him, it hardened him. He stopped caring about being liked and became obsessed with being feared on the pitch. Then, at 15, his own body betrayed him. Doctors diagnosed Ronaldo with tachycardia, a condition where his heart would race at a dangerous, irregular speed, even while sitting still. One more game could have been his last. He underwent immediate laser surgery to cauterize the malfunctioning nodes, essentially rewiring the organ that kept him alive. Most people would have taken months to recover, or never played again out of fear. Ronaldo was back on the training field in a matter of days. He began a transformation that bordered on madness. He swore off alcohol entirely to avoid his father's fate. He snuck into the gym at night, training alone in the dark, and strapped heavy weights to his ankles, so that when he stepped onto the pitch for a real match, he would be faster than any human alive. He survived his own heart's failure by turning himself into a machine. Every tear, every taunt about his poverty, and every physical limitation was converted into a singular, terrifying work ethic. The payoff arrived in 2003. After a single preseason friendly where he humiliated the Manchester United defense, Sir Alex Ferguson famously refused to leave the stadium until the 18-year-old had signed a contract. He arrived in England with braces on his teeth and spots on his face, but he immediately demanded the iconic number 7 shirt, the jersey of Beckham and Cantona. He wasn't there to learn, he was there to take over. He spent the next decade systematically rebuilding himself. He went from a flashy, bleach-tipped winger in Manchester to the most dominant athlete in the history of Real Madrid, where he averaged more than a goal every single game for 9 years. This wasn't a natural progression. It was a cold, calculated re-engineering. The boy with the racing heart worked until he reached a level of physical power that the sport had never seen before. Today, the starving kid from Madeira has a billion-dollar empire and 5 Ballon d'Or trophies. And in a striking reversal of fortune, the same island that once struggled to feed him renamed its international airport in his honor. The boy who was an unplanned addition to a poor family is now the name that welcomes the world to Madeira. Cristiano Ronaldo's story suggests that while a brutal starting point is a reality, it doesn't have to be a final destination. He didn't succeed in spite of his trauma. He succeeded because he used it to forge a resilience that talent alone could never match. Greatness isn't a gift. It is the result of refusing to stay where you began.